Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining Living One Day Older, a LinkedIn series. Our network is geared towards a 50 plus more mature, growing forward with time audience. And Living One Day Older, we curate and connect B2B and B2C with the 50 plus audience seeking products and services to fulfill our more mature lifestyle. Today we turn to John Kerkhoff. Let me pull him on up. Hey, John.
Hello, hello.
John is a 20-year veteran of the military, and he has a proven track record of guiding executives to reach the next level up. And this part is what I really like, everybody. The gaining more from veteran employee retention. And that's really what I want to talk about.
A lot of work with Army veterans still, all veterans really, but I'm predominant on Army bases and working with executives, trying to figure out that balance of where they bring in veteran talent, how they properly utilize them, how they grow their own internal talent, utilizing that veteran talent and those skills.
AI is kind of a hot topic here in the US for some stupid reason. I say stupid because a lot of it's being stripped from our schools, and they're trying to take it away from our workplace policy books. But you know what? A lot of these people think that they're kind of over is what they don't realize is that DEI actually it affects the aging. It affects handicapped, disabled. It affects everybody because not any one of us, not any one society, especially here in America, it's a stew. It's carrots and meat and and some bay leaves. I mean, it's a stew, and so we need to talk about that and keep it fresh. And so, what are you doing with there's a lot of stereotypes that come in with a lot of veterans. As a matter of fact, I'd like to hear your talks. What do you come up against, and how do you break through this? We're not just going to whine about things here, right? We're going to talk about how we break through and build up from. But there's stereotypes, there's discriminations, and how do you help executives see the talent pool and work with all the differences that we all bring to the table?
I'm gonna steal that stew analogy there because that is actually a very, very great way to put it. Because anyone who's done any kind of cooking or culinary
Right.
arts, right, you understand that each ingredient is very unique, but when you put it together with the right balance and the right melody, you have great dishes,
Right.
right? If I just throw salt on everything, it's going to be salty and I'm going to have that bitterness. But if I compile it with lemon zest and sugars and, different varieties of meats and vegetables, right, you create that stew and it's delicious. It's amazing and it's really refreshing. So I'm definitely stealing your stew analogy there because that's a great, beautiful way to put it.
Thank
Um,
you. And
but
you're not stealing if I'm going to let you have it. And the thing is textures too. You know,
oh yeah,
a stew is different than a soup. The texture of soup is
hmm
different, right? So textures, you know.
textures, yeah, definitely love that. But as far as the veteran community goes, right, so the big thing the veteran community faces when entering the workforce is there's this stereotype, there's this bias that we're either going to come in ultra aggressive, and that scares a lot of employees, or we're going to come in with all these problems and disabilities, and that we're going to be, well, okay, I'm going to work, but I need this time off for this, I need this time off for that, and so we get these two extremes that employers are kind of really afraid to address because it's either, well, I need you to come and be a leader, but I'm so afraid you're going to be this ultra aggressive, hands forward, yeah, you're doing this, and yelling and screaming, which is almost 99% veterans. We're like, no, we're just trying to blend in. We're just trying to be normal people like everyone else. And
Right.
then you get the others who, um, the employee is afraid that, okay, yeah, I'm going to get 8 hours of good work out of you, but then I'm going to lose you for 16 hours for doctor's appointments, medical appointments. But again, we're no different than anyone else because we'll go see a doctor when we need to see a doctor. We love to work. We love to keep busy. It's all about for us being productive, being active, and having that fulfilling impact that when I went to work today, I accomplished something. I feel good about what I did. I didn't just show up to work, stare blankly into a computer, then go home and then go, what did I do today?
Right.
So
And
definitely, yeah.
the, veterans, of course, come from because some of them, their tour is, they finish up in early in life. And sometimes, like you, they stay, a 20-year period, 10-year period. And so, and when you enter, we don't know what age people enter. I know that there's a cutoff, but the reinventing ourselves into the aging aspect of it, we're coming into a new, we being, your veterans, or those of us who are again reinventing ourselves, going into a new career. And being older, we've got something to give, a lot to give, right? And quite enthusiastically, I notice that often, not everybody, but often a younger generation these days might feel like they have been exposed to certain lifestyles and they can have it right now. And they may, because I don't want to, discriminate against the youth either, because that's a discrimination as well as a stereotype. But there are some examples out there where, you know, the older folks, right? We want to be productive. We want to have a purposeful life because we've had a long life out there that we know that we have been, geared up to mentor to other people, at this point.
Right, shortly after I'd graduated high school. So I was geared up, ready to go serve my country, and I was a young kid trying to find myself, trying to figure out what it was. Um, so I was a scout, a lot of reconnaissance. At the time, it was an all male unit, so it's a combat unit, and so at the time, no females were allowed into it. It was all male leaders, and definitely had that perspective of growing up into this very um, male dominated, testosterone driven job. And it was great, like, especially growing up and trying to learn who I'm supposed to be as a man,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But what really became of it really neat is as my career progressed, even staying in that role, I got more interaction with women, right? And people of different best part about the military, no matter what job you do, no matter what branches, you get submerged into culture right away, right? It's because you're brought together with over 100 other people from around the US, around the world, different life experiences, different stages of their life, and you're all put at the same exact level in basic training.
right,
You're all starting at scratch, the same level, doesn't matter what age you are, what experience you have, you're all starting fresh at the bottom together. And you build that up, and then you that's how you start realizing where everyone is, different experiences, then that grows with you. And a lot of these individuals you'll go to the similar units with and you'll grow with them, which is really neat because now it builds that camaraderie. Now you have to incorporate with a new group of people. And so that was really cool in itself. But as I got up through the ranks, now I'm working more with females in different roles. Towards the end of my career, they opened the combat arms community to females, which was really neat to see because there was a lot of people very angry about this, especially in my career path. And I said, wait a sec, time out, guys. This is actually a pretty neat thing. And everyone looks at me, of course, like, whoa, 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 what do you mean? And I said, hey, look, because I have men coming in who can't meet the standard. If I have a female who can come in and meet the standard, wouldn't I want that person over the one who can't meet the standard just because of their gender? And it opened that door. It was that perspective. I was blessed. I got to work in the Pentagon for 3 years, and I had some very, very great leaders, both men and women, who really mentored me and showed me that bigger side of the Army, the bigger side of career, the bigger side of leadership on the giant level of, hey, okay, yes, you were focused down here in what we're trying to do, but this is how it pictures. This is how it affects the nation. This is how it affects the world. And this is why we make decisions the way we do. So, very eye opening experience. And kind of getting to your point of as you open this, I needed that group of mentors who had been there, done that, and were, significantly further in their careers and their age than I was. So they could give me that perspective. They could mentor me. They could train me and coach me. that I could turn around and pass that down to those who are looking up to me, who I'm older than further along than, because it's a chain. It's not a dot dot and that's it. It's an actual chain that goes all the way through. And we
Yeah.
need that both military and in corporate culture.
And I think it's overlooked is older people really enjoy being in the company of younger people because there's so much we could all learn from each other. I mean, I'm always thrilled when you know, boy, it's not even millennials anymore. They're up there. Are you a millennial? Um, they're like older now, you know, Gen Z, I guess. They are, they move really quickly. And, um, fast isn't always what's holding, it's like, oh, well, an older person can't do something as quickly, or an older person can't, right? They can't. Okay. They can't lift this. They can't do that. It's like, what can we do? Because we've got a lot of value to offer. And just because I made this point just this last week, just because you're different doesn't mean you're less than. It just means you've got a different skill set. So let's
Mhm.
utilize that in our business life, right? I think it would be really beneficial. I mean, maybe you could tell me, but if the corporate world or small business would once in a while put different groups of people together so that we build a camaraderie. So it's not
Mhm.
always us and them, right? We are, and to learn by one another, and to have, yeah, camaraderie. There's
100% agree with that. Camaraderie is really that strength that comes into it, that of how we approach things, how we look at complexities. But it's also the very similar thing in the corporate world. I show up to a new job, right? And I'll talk about how I did it in my last job, which is great. Where we break ourselves, both military and corporate side of this, is that we're so hyper focused on what it was instead of saying, hey, let's take good lessons from there and apply it here, and good lessons from here and keep them in place. We don't do that. And that's kind of what really shoots ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
So one of the things I like to do as a leader when I get into an organization, whether it was a military organization or if I'm working with these executives, I sit down and I talk to them and I ask the executives all the way down to the lowest level people the same question. I give them a 3x5 card and I give them three of them to be exact. And I say, okay, on each of these 3x5 cards, on the first one, I want you to write three things you want to keep. You think it's working well, you don't want to see it change, it looks good. Then on the next card, I want you to write three things that you would get rid of today. Like it doesn't work, it's slowing you guys down, it's hurting you, and they write the three things down. They're like, now with your last one, put three things that may or may not be working with some refinement can improve. And they write their three things down. And then what I do is I take them across the board and I say no names are allowed on these because we don't want finger pointing. We don't want it to be traced, right? And I find all the similarities. Hey, look, across the board, everyone says these things are working. We keep that. Across the board, we say these things suck. They don't work. We get rid of that. And then any similarities in that middle ground, that's our workshop. That's what we're improving on. Because if people believe that's all it needs is some refinement to get better, that means everyone in that organization has bought into that. And
right.
so then you grow it, you work it. And a lot of executives are like, I've never thought of this. Yeah, well, of
Basic.
course you haven't. It's not because you're not a good leader. It's because you're at that level, you start getting hyper focused on one path, the horse blinders. And that's just the natural thing that happens at that leadership level. So it's now let's take it back. Let's get your vision down to that level so they can turn that triangle upside down and give you a bigger vision.
Let's mix it up and let's not be afraid of change because being agile and still decisive, because you don't want a leader to be just so agile. They're just like flip flopping every chance that, oh, yeah, let's try this now. I mean, yes, you want to try new ideas, but you also want to work out, some of those refinements that you have decided that you're going to go with, and let's give it a try. But yeah, agility is really key to Well, as far as I've always understood is key to life. Staying flexible and curious, and you know, and that I think keeps us motivated because we all know when we become too comfortable, that's when you start laying down and making your bed, and then what happens next? Nothing creative is coming out of that, and there's no synergy coming from that. So you don't want to get too comfortable in your "this is how we do it."
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah.
the that's like a perfect way to put it, especially because again, the leaders, especially CEOs and executives, they're so big picture oriented that sometimes, like I said, they get streamlined on this is where I'm trying to go, and they kind of forget about everything else, and they forget about the changes that are needed because it's worked, right? They got here because it's worked, but um, where that synergy comes with the younger generation likes to ask why, and a lot of people, as a group, especially the older group, they hate that word. They hate the word why, and they shouldn't, because why is actually a powerful tool. Because if you can articulate the why you're doing something, you understand the reason behind it. And I'm that kid who comes up and says, "Well, why?" Because I just want to know why we do it this way. It's not because I'm challenging it. It's I need to logically understand why we do things the way we do. And what you come to see is, well, we've always done it this way. Well, why? At some point the organization started doing this for a reason. They didn't just say, "This seems like a good idea, let's do it."
Right.
There was a time and a place of why a decision was made. So if we can understand why it was, then we can ask ourselves, is it still relevant? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not.
I think if we were to close on something, I would like to close on staying agile, right? Don't be afraid to ask why. And what would be the third one there, John? Or maybe there's a fourth one there.
There's a few. Um, Actually, I'll give it a call to action if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
For those, who are in their whatever they work for organization, if you're on the older side of it, you've been there a while, you're tenured, you need to take one of those newer employees under your wing, train them and mentor them, right? There's a relationship that gets built with this. One, you're going to kind of be able to guide them through the process and they'll make fewer mistakes, but also that younger generation can teach you a thing or two and prevent you from like hitting that point where you're like, you know what, I don't care, I'm showing up until I can retire.
Right.
So that you could create that synergy by volunteering or offering to be someone's mentor or coach at an organization. And it works both ways. You younger kids, you need to do the same. Find someone who's been there, who knows what's going on, and hey, can you show me how you do this? Teach me how to do this, and let them train you in the ways, and you'll realize where that balance is, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it is, and it's very exciting. You feel like you've walked away from a day that's been filled with energy and productivity, and you've become closer to a coworker. So, well, thanks for coming on,
100%.
John. I was really honored, and I know that everybody's going to really get a lot out of watching this. But moreover than that is get in touch with John. He's on LinkedIn. So, John, thank you for coming on. I would like to encourage everybody, if you are want to talk to John about anything further about employee retention, mentoring, training. This guy has a wealth of experience underneath him. And if you are a business that seeks out to reach the more mature audience of spenders, you can reach out to me here on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on Facebook Messenger. If you've got brand you want to promote, or a project or an event, let's talk about living one day older and your business. Thank you for joining us today.